$3 billion request is coming from just the pension system alone. You don't like that idea? You don't like Tennesseans carrying that burden? Share this stream, sign this pledge, hashtag reject bailouts. As we see Zach on the line with us right now. How you doing, buddy? Introduce yourself to our audience. Let us know where you're coming from, that type of stuff.
I am doing great, guys. Stream's doing great. I'm Zachary Houk. I'm the current chair of the Knox County Libertarian Party. I'm also a former candidate for State House District 13 in the 2018 election cycle.
It's my district.
Yeah.
You're right in my neighborhood.
Yeah. So if you're interested in joining your local LP, you can find us at lptn.org, or if you're in the East Tennessee area, you can find us at etnlp.org. I have no podcasts or websites. I'm just a proud advocate for freedom and personal responsibility.
And a killer volunteer. I mean, you're a killer volunteer for AFP, and then you're obviously a killer volunteer for Libertarian Party, stepping up and being a county chair. I kind of throw out there for anybody, and maybe you can speak on this while we have you on the stream, because you're our last person. We don't have any time constraints now. But like, it's a pretty good jump to go from a regular political activist to deciding to do, a non-flashy job like being a county chair of a political party. That's pretty cool. I've always thought it was cool. I've never been a county chair of a political party, so pretty cool.
Well, Josh, that was on earlier. I was his vice chair, pretty much from the jump of me joining the party, and it's pretty much been lockstep with the party and advocation since then.
Absolutely.
Well, it is a good way to book in sort of this pledge drive that we're asking people to do right now. Again, shameless plug, sign the pledge at the top of the description as you see right now, starting with Libertarian, ending with a Libertarian as well. How did you come to be affiliated with Americans for Prosperity? There is that aspect of that symbiotic overlap that we have, the two organizations, but where did you come?
So my story is not dissimilar from Josh's. I met James Evison and think
everybody knows James,
and Andy Ogle was also at an LP meeting, and I met them, and ever since then I've been doing events with y'all and working with y'all, days on the Hill and call banks, whatnot.
Well, so let me ask this. You might have a little bit more intimate connection with some of these questions than possibly anybody else we brought on before, being that you've ran for office previously. Like, you understand the inside baseball to some of these schemes. Where are you coming at from then with this idea of the federal government bailing out state governments?
Yeah, in all honesty, it's not a whole lot different than what we've heard previously tonight. I mean, it's a very cut and dry type of thing. I oppose it because it creates a dangerous precedent. It's going to breed more fiscal irresponsibility. I mean, the federal government is bad enough with its own fiscal policies. There's no need for it to reward these states for their own financial ineptitude, and then also possibly be in charge of these states' budgets for decades to come. If the federal government can't do it themselves, what makes us think that they could do it for the states? So my hopes, if anything positive comes out of this, I hope it causes more citizens to kind of want to blow open their state's budgets and demand to have a more robust description of the line items.
Wow. Yes.
And kind of call for balanced budget amendments and advocate for their and demand that their representative take a look at the line items and have them request them be stricken line item by line item vetoes across the board. My final hope is that this forces states governments to shrink in size. That means a lot of people in government positions are going to lose their jobs, or they're going to have their pays cut. But we've seen in state budgets that there are a lot of them that are getting paid ridiculous amounts for basically jobs that don't reflect the market value of that job.
Man. Yeah, we saw. I think it was New York Daily News. I think it was. I mean, I don't know if that's what it is. I think it was New York Daily News that did an article about Illinois. They went through their budget and found so many jobs over $120,000 a year. And then you look at the people, and like I'm the kind of person where like I can gauge that pretty well. Like I worked in electrical work, so like I know what a lot of trade people, what they're worth and what the value of that's worth in certain economies. And just looking at it on its face, and I'm not an expert, like I saw Illinois like overspending 20-30% on what the market would spend in certain kinds of jobs. I mean, the one that stuck out to me was the people who got rid of trees. Now I know that is super skilled labor and you can die, but I mean, I think if you work for the state, it should be about 15% lower than the market because you have a lot more security and better benefits. And I think they were charging 25 to 30% more than market. And that's just an example, but there's several. And maybe I can find that and throw it in the description. But yes, we have seen these states. It's not just pensions. That's a really good point, Zach. It's not just pensions. They're paying people too much money to do something and then guaranteeing that income after they retire. And we need to, not just they, I don't want to make this about an other. We as a society need to know how much a service costs. And we don't need government inflating the price of that service because, I mean, something that's a unforeseen consequence is when a state government pays more for something, it raises the price in the private sector market because it raises the price of that labor. And so we as a society need to figure out where to throw value. And we can't do that when states are overpaying for stuff or even, God forbid, throwing money in places that have no value, which happens all the time in state government because it's not like we just have an infinite supply of money forever.
No, I mean you can't tell the government that because we are their tax farm.
Yeah, I hear you there.
I mean,
they'll have Warren Buffett actually said it the other day. He was asked a question, why will the American government never default? And it's like, well, because we print our own money, don't we? Like we're paying ourselves back in our own bonds that we're issuing out. So when you got that cool little scheme going on, you're never going to default anyways.
As long as you run out of that ink and run out of that paper, I mean, you're fine.
There's the way you solve it. And dude, that's why I think our community here at AFP lapping over with the Libertarians, overlapping with the Young Republicans is such a beautiful thing to see, Bill. Because honestly, Zach, that thought line you just went down didn't even occur to me. The thought line you went down of like, what could possibly happen to this? Such a great thing of people cracking over their state budgets and just seeing the ridiculous spending, just seeing for themselves. Because here's what's going to happen, man. When Illinois or Kansas or California or any of the other states that come out right now and start asking for massive amounts of federal bailout, some of their citizens are going to start questioning, like, why? What? Hold on, for what? And then they're going to start looking. This stuff is publicly available. I mean, you can go find this stuff on Google right now. They're going to start opening up those state ledgers and thinking, like, what did you spend on? What is this now? How many tens of millions did you like? That would be a very beautiful thing, would it not? Of genuinely questioning where the money's going.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, wasn't California just talking about seceding from the United States? Yeah, and now they're asking for the other 49 to cover their bills?
Right. Well, when I think California, I think consistency, obviously,
Right. Yeah. I mean, how mismanaged can you be when you have one of the largest economies on your own as a state? Like if you were to compare it to other countries, you have an extremely large economy, one of the top in the world, and to mismanage funds this much, it's mind-boggling. And then with New York having less people than Florida, but Florida has half the budget that New York has. What's New York doing?
There's only 7 countries in the world that have a bigger budget than California. That's something important to remember.
Let me ask you about this aspect here too, Zach, an aspect of decreasing state sovereignty, right? It seems like these obviously decreased state sovereignty would incentivize future fiscal irresponsibility. And again, what John was talking about earlier is going to create a moral hazard problem, or at least an ethical hazard problem. But check this out, all right? So bailouts rewards fiscally that are reckless towards states or whatever at the expense of fiscally responsible ones. And academic research here from the Mercatus Center at George Mason University shows that federal bailouts could even lead to higher state level taxes. Now, according to their research there, every dollar of federal aid to state drives state taxes higher by 33 to 42 cents. So respond a little bit if you can, not just like the aspect of like you take that money, you're going to be charging your people more, like you just said, it's going to inevitably drive up state taxes. But how does that end up destroying the state sovereignty? And why does state sovereignty even matter right now?
Well, because right now, ever since the Civil War, we've started seeing state powers erode more and more and more, and the federal government just get bigger and bigger. Well, I mean, if the federal and it's kind of like with colleges, you see tuition go up and up more and more. They receive federal dollars.
Hmm.
It just encourages inflation at that point. It
I mean, it ends up becoming a thing where like
Yeah.
it's inevitable perpetuating cycle, right?
Or is it fair to
and-
say that people don't spend money well that they know is guaranteed? Like when they know it's coming,
I mean,
like
it's
there's
easy.
no pressure there.
Yeah, it's extremely easy to spend somebody else's money, but when it's your own money coming out of your own pocket,
Hmm.
but of course the states don't have that, the federal government doesn't have that. It comes out of our wallets. Or they just print it and it still comes out of our wallets. And it comes out of our children's wallets and our grandchildren's wallets. And it just decreases our buying power as citizens and really, weakens everybody.
Yeah,
as
man,
far as that
which is
goes.
a scary thing to think about. It weakens everybody, makes you more reliant upon the federal government. Exactly what you're saying there, and less reliant upon your neighbors and the communities that you came from. We're gonna end the program here in just a minute. Zach, let me ask you one final question on the way out here. You have a slightly different community group from some folks out here in Middle Tennessee, and having run for office previously as well. You, like I said before, you know how the game's played a little bit. Are any of your folks talking about this much? I mean, this specific issue, not just like generalities of, you know.
I mean, other than the circle that watches the show and is paying attention.
Hmm.
I mean, I've got family that are listening right now, and most of the time, people I know would be completely left in the dark
Hmm.
because you don't see this on mainstream media a whole lot. So I mean, I would personally say a whole lot of people haven't heard about it until I started talking to them about it. I'm like, "Have you heard this?" They're like, "No, I haven't heard this."
Hmm.
Um, so it surprises me how many people are in the dark. But of course, what happens in the shadows will eventually be brought out into the light.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, and we got to end this stream here right now. Zach, I got to tell you one thing on the way out, though, buddy. I used to have a beard, like a legit one, like you do, like an actual full-on man beard. And watching you tonight, it's like I miss it, man. I miss the beard too much.
Well, I mean, I was supposed to have a beard trim just a few days before the quarantine hit, and then they scheduled it to when they thought that the quarantine would end, and here I am. I'm probably not going to have a beard trim for probably several more months because you have to walk in there with a face mask. We can't trim a beard with a face mask.
That's right.
Exactly.
Grow it out, man. Grow it out, dude.
So
Braid that thing
we're
out,
probably going to be
become-
grizzly man by the time it's over.
That's all right. Zach, buddy, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll catch you next
Thanks for
time.
having me.
Thank you so much. Now